Not that many neither today, but some people, some, not, thank God for that, just a few, sometimes want to hear my opinion, Narcotics Anonymous, man, it's like, I've seen that turns people into public nuisance, into personalities and celebrities, you know what I mean? And it's like, from nothing to somebody or someone, there is a lot of magic and miracle in these programs, and I've been fortunate enough to be graced with some of that magic and some of that strength, that Narcotics Anonymous has for an individual like myself, and I don't know, man. It's like I'm in love with Narcotics and Alcoholics Anonymous. I am in love with the way I live today, and that's because of Narcotics and Alcoholics Anonymous. And thank you, and God be with you.
Well, I'd like to wish a happy birthday to... Is there anybody else in the room that had a sobriety birthday that weren't recognized? If so, would you please stand up and be recognized? Anybody with a year? Over a year? No? Okay. I'd like to wish a real happy birthday to every one of you people. A little while ago, a few minutes ago, I was telling you people what H&I was all about. And there's a lot of people that are in those hospitals and jails and penitentiaries and nut houses that can't come out to a meeting like this here. And the way that we take care of that is, if we can't take a panel into the institution, whatever institution it might be, we send literature. And the way we pay for the literature is it's people like me and people like you that put money into these cans. It's a very, very valuable thing, folks. I remember a lot of times, I used to do something. If I did something for this dude right here, man, I'd make sure it got back on the street. If I did something for this cat here, man, you know what? I'd make sure that everybody knew that I did it. And you want to know something? Huh? I'm going to put something in this can right now. And it's money. And I ain't going to tell you how much it is. But you want to know something? It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. And we don't ask for a hell of a lot. We only ask for what you can afford. But tonight, folks, I'd like everybody to sit in his seat until his cans have gone by, and I'd appreciate it very much if you kept your small change in your pockets. There's the can. These are the cans, folks.
Gee, I wish we were up to this part here. It says the closing prayer. First of all, my name is Jimmy. I'm a recovered addict.
Hi, Jimmy.
You notice I said recovered. There's a lot of discussion about should we be recovered or recovering. We say both around here, so you can take your choice. It's one of the things I like about this program. We always have a choice. Bob just told a few of you what he thinks. And see, as far as I'm concerned, if you want to talk, that's fine. If you really got something to say, I'll sit down right there and listen to you. And I'll tell you why. One of the reasons I said that is I'm going to go back a little ways. I'm going to go back to 1962. Or around, I think the spring, early summer, just about, maybe about this time. And That time I was married to another woman. My kids were fairly small, a couple of them. Coming home from work one afternoon, I turned the radio on and I heard some news that disturbed me greatly. I heard that SOB Khrushchev was coming to Los Angeles. Maybe some of you weren't even born then, and maybe this is old history, you know. But I got so incensed when I heard that, I went home and I said to my wife, tomorrow afternoon I'm coming home from work early. I want you to have some bags packed. And we're taking off. I won't breathe the same smog as that SOB. You know? And she said, I don't care what the thing is that takes us out of town for a couple of days. I'm willing, let's go, you know. So what I want to prove is how manageable our lives become after we're on the program for a while. You know, maybe some of you are going through that phase. How nice it is to be able to manage your life again. Make meaningful choices. You know, all those good words we hear at meetings and from our sponsors and a lot of other people that we don't listen to half the time, you know, which is about my way of doing things too, you know. I try to find the person who agrees with me. Then I feel that I've been approved and I go ahead on it, you know. And that'll probably sink in a little bit later in the program, you know. But anyway, it shows you the manageability that I had gotten into my life, how I could cope with things and make decisions, you know. And the first step seemed a long, long ways away in the background at that time, when I'd had to admit that I was powerless over my addictions and that my life had become unmanageable because it felt good to be able to do these things that I decided upon, you know. So the result was anyway that we took off. We didn't know where we were going, but we wound up late Friday night up in a motel up in Santa Barbara. Now, I never spent much time in Santa Barbara, but I thought it'd be nice in the morning to go see the mission and go to the museum and a few other things like that. But it didn't quite turn out that way. We had a nice day. I went over to a clubhouse up there where there were AA meetings, and I got the coldest shoulder that I ever got anywhere. And I left there in a hurry. I went back the next day, the next morning, and found some of the guys in the kitchen. You know, if you want what we have most of the time, the place to get it is right back there. You know, not so much out here. Go back in the kitchen. Get your hands wet, you know, do some dishes. Yeah, go chase something to eat and talk to the guy that's shaking so goddamn bad or the gal that's shaking so bad that they can't sit here, even on their hands, you know. That's where I learned what this program was all about. But anyway, the next morning was Sunday morning, and I felt so good about getting away from LA and away from that SOB, because I used to lay all my resentments on the communists, because then I didn't have to blame any of my friends or myself for what was going on. Okay? That's known as, I guess, passing the buck. You know, I guess there's another word for it. I can't grasp it right at the present time. But anyway, that's what I was doing. So we went out, and the family went to church, and I drove around town a little bit. I picked them up. We started to go down to the museum in Santa Barbara, and I didn't know it didn't open until 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So here we are, about 10:30 in the morning, gallivanting around Santa Barbara, not knowing what to do, not knowing anybody up there. So there's a little park I saw, so we went down to this little park. It was right next to the railroad station. So I went over to a bar over there and got a cup of coffee and was sitting there. And of course, in this bar, like most other bars, there's always a good loud drunk, you know. And he's arguing with the chef back in the kitchen. And I pick up what he's saying, and I said to the bartender, I said, what's going on with this character, you know? He said he wants a knife. I said, what the hell does he want a knife for? Is he going to cut his throat, you know? He says, no. He says, some Ruskies are coming in on the train. And he says he's going to kill him, you know? I said to myself, what the hell is going on? Here I have managed everything so beautiful, and here I am. Okay? You're right. I went over to the station, and the train stopped, And off they got, all his bodyguards. And I stood closer than I am to Bob right now. And I'm telling you, I thought to myself, you stupid son of a bitch. You come all the way up to Santa Barbara and you didn't bring your gun with you. And I looked at that little pig-faced, bald-headed, you know what, and I thought to myself, it's a good thing I didn't. It wouldn't be worth it. You know, it wouldn't be worth it. And there's a big commotion behind me. And here was the cat from the bar, and he had gotten a knife somewheres, and he was trying to make it over there. When part of the camera crew from TV grabbed him, and then a couple of cops grabbed him and took him away. So it just shows you how well we come to manage our own lives. Now that's a bit of my own experience. Now the other reason for telling you that, how manageable my life is today, is that I thought generally I just talk off the top of my head at any given time, because I don't speak often at a big meeting. I speak mostly at small meetings or at the office or at my house. We have 3 or 4 people sitting around the table. That's the way I still like it, because I think we can get a little bit more honest that way. You know? Like you, I'm inclined to talk ahead of myself when I'm up here. I'm inclined to talk about what I hope it will be like rather than what it really is like right now. Now that's a natural thing, because our particular way of living, I think, has always been that way. We've always been a step ahead of ourselves in what we hope for, what we would like to see, what we would like to be, what we would like to become. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's basic to our nature. We always want the better things in life for ourselves. But anyway, I sat today and I thought, well, I'm going to get my thoughts in order. There's a few things I'd like to talk about, but I got to have some notes on it. So I proceeded very quickly today to run through my head and run through a few other things, and got about 8 pages of notes. Big lettering, about the size of this, you know. And then I left them home. So here I am, and all I'm going to be able to talk about is what I usually talk about, what it's like right now, where I'm at, what I think of the program, what I understand, some parts of the program, how I handle some of the things that come up in my life. And I'll probably be out in left field most of the time. And if you can follow me, fine. If you can't, well, that's just the way it is. Because I take things pretty much a day at a time, an hour at a time. And I'll have to start a long ways and perhaps give you some indication of the kind of person I am now, the kind of person I was in the beginning. Because I don't think that we change that much, any of us, in our inner life, our inner living. I think we do become what we've always been directed toward. I wasn't born in the United States. I was born a long, long way from here. I was born in Paisley, Scotland. And I grew up in a family that was pretty closely knit, very religious family. My father was on the stage. He was a headliner. He was a comedian. We had a lot of fun in our life. We had a lot of laughter, a lot of singing. I became a dancer when I was very, very young. And that sort of laid out a pattern for much of my life. Because every competition I was ever in, I won. Except one. And that one, I kicked off a shoe during one of my routines. And the judges disqualified me because I kicked off a shoe even though I continued in the competition. And there was a big uproar went up because of this. And the judges wouldn't change their mind. They declared that I was the best dancer there, but that they were not going to give me the trophy. And that sort of laid out something in my life. I always had to be up front. I always had to be number one. And I think maybe today in some ways it's still that way. I don't think that's necessarily bad or wrong, but I think it's something that I have to be very careful of. Because like so many other people, my ego is pretty strong. I've got a lot of pride. I hate to be a loser because I felt that I was a failure for so many years. And I hate to lose at anything. And it's pretty difficult at times for me yet not to push my way in. But you see, I've always found out in my life I never had to push my way to the front. People always pushed me to the front. I never liked too much responsibility. As I say, I have to be very careful of my nature as I know it, not maybe as you see it or think you know me. See, I know me better than any one of you do. It means to me that at any given time I have to be careful of Jimmy Kinnan, because I know the extent that I can go to even without thinking and pushing myself ahead in the ego area. It's very easy for me to do that, and I have to be very careful of it. That's one of the reasons that I don't exert control in my life. Rather, I discipline myself to do only certain things. I don't speak at many big meetings because it is inclined to build me up within my own self to something that I'm not. I'm pretty much a private person. I don't like to reveal myself too much to too many people. I've always been that way. I'm practically a loner at times. I'm not a recluse, as some people state, but I prefer sometimes myself and the things I am doing with perhaps one other person, my wife in particular, to getting out in a crowd. I prefer it that way. It's nothing to be proud of nor to be ashamed of. That's just the way I am. And I feel sometimes that I get pushed into a corner. And I've been pushed and pulled by so many pressures throughout my life, including the addictions, that I resent it almost within myself to even feel the way I do. I hope you can understand what I'm saying there. Sometimes it's very hard to talk to people who are new. I know there's a lot of people new, fairly new to the program at this meeting tonight, and I'm always concerned with a newcomer. I'm inclined at times to get into myself, even when I'm speaking, and get lost in what I'm trying to tell myself. Because here we're not teachers, we're not preachers. We're here to learn, every one of us, from the first time we come to a meeting. I remember when I made my first meeting, how afraid I was. I still case every place I walk into. I want to know where the nearest door is out and where the nearest window is. And I sit facing the door, because I want to get out in a hurry if anything happens. You know, I've always been that way. I don't turn my back to a door yet. You know, I guess that's self-survival. I got in too many problems backing myself into a corner. So I try to leave that area open. Most important thing to me, of course, when I speak to anyone, is basically the steps. When we discuss the steps to any great length, I think all we do is complicate them and make them harder to understand and harder to work. The steps are everything in my life today. I don't have to consciously work them, but I have to work them. This program becomes such a part after a while that you work it naturally. When I first came around, I had to work it because there was no other way to go. If I didn't work it, I was going to die. That's where I was. I came in, I was an abject failure in every department of life. And I mean that completely and fully. There was nothing left, and I had to surrender, I had to give up. And in doing that, it was hard because I couldn't think, I couldn't speak. It took me about 6 months to be able to put more than one sentence together at any given time. And I used to get so angry at myself that people would walk away from me. I would try to say something and my tongue would fall over my eye teeth and I couldn't see what I was saying, you know. It was terrible. And I would get so angry I'd leave the building and I'd go out and pound on a wall, you know, hit my head against the plaster, you know, punch my way through doors, broke my hands, you know, so angry at me. You know, I didn't know how to change. I didn't know how to have any affection for me as a person. I hated myself so much I'd look in the mirror and I'd spit in the mirror in the morning. This was even after I was clean and sober for a while. And I didn't know what to do. And I went along like this, but staying clean. And I got a cake after a year. And right up to 10 minutes before I got the cake, I wasn't sure whether I could accept it or not, because I didn't know whether I'd been clean all that time. I think I wasn't confused. I did not know. And I said to a guy I knew, I said, I don't think I can go up and get that cake. He said, why not? I said, because I don't think I've been on the program for a year. He said, where have you been every night? And sometimes during the day. I said, I've been at meetings 2-3 times a day. 14 meetings on a weekend from Friday night to Monday noon, you know. Up into the jails, up into the road camps, you know. And he said, well, would you come to a meeting if you'd been loaded? I said, hell no. He said, then you got a year in. That's the basis that I took my cake, because I wasn't sure, you know. And after a little while, I began to get in real trouble then, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And I guess this is the part that goes into the 12th step. You know, I'm jumping from the first to the 12th step, but sometimes that's the way we are in the beginning. It's all we seem to know. Try to stay clean a day at a time and try to help somebody else. All the other steps will fall into place as we go along. Stay clean. Now I ran into a lot of trouble. I ran into trouble with my family. I couldn't sit down and eat a meal with my family for 2.5 years. Talk about emotionally ill, incomplete, ill-equipped to live. You know, I could scarcely work. But I kept going to meetings, kept talking to people, kept going on 12-step calls. And I got so bad one time I couldn't get out of my bedroom. 1.5 years on the program, couldn't leave my bedroom. And I couldn't talk. I sat there like a vegetable. I couldn't open my mouth. My wife at that time came in, she said, what's wrong? She said, you want a cup of coffee? You want a cigarette? And I sat for 3 days like that, on the side of the bed. Hit the bathroom to get rid of the coffee and back to bed, as far as I could go. I couldn't leave the house. I was terrified. I had more fear in me then than I ever had previously. I was afraid to leave the house. I had nothing to depend on. I hadn't found any kind of higher power that I could depend on. And I didn't want what the religionists had been trying to give me all my life. Because you see, when I was a kid, I never played hooky from school. I loved school because I could learn there. But I played hooky from church every chance I got. I couldn't stand all that stuff they were telling me because I didn't believe it, you know. And I would take off and I'd go up into the hills in Scotland. Up in the hills above town. In fact, I saw a little something just this morning on TV, a little flash. I guess it was this afternoon. One of those old Tammy shows where she was up in the hills looking down on the town. And it took me right back to those times when I was 7, 8 years old. And I'd go up there and I'd look down on the town. And I'd look over the old castle ruins. And I'd lay there in the heather, smell the heather. And I felt so good compared to what I felt when I was with people and down in town and helping my father with his act and dancing. That was all fine, but it wasn't me. You know? I was always afraid. Okay? Thank God that fear is gone. I'm at ease now. Now, very often I'm uncomfortable, but I'm at ease. Like everybody else, I was uncomfortable coming up here before the meeting. I get the butterflies, I get the jitters. But once I'm into doing what I'm doing, I can go ahead. I can feel at ease about it. But to get back to the main thrust of this thing is that I'd reached this point where nothing was going to make any change in my life. And then this thing we talk about in the 12th step, where we seem to have some kind of experience that alters the inner workings, that alters us somewhere down deep so that we take a different course. Third day, I'm trying to go to sleep late at night in my own bedroom, dark. And I fell asleep for a little while, and I woke up complete and abject terror. I didn't know what was wrong. I had many experiences like that, as most of you know, at different times, terrors. But this was different. I didn't know what I was afraid of. I didn't have any idea what was happening. And I couldn't move, which was the worst part. I was actually immobile, like a piece of wood laying there, and I couldn't move. I couldn't think. I couldn't scream. I couldn't ask for help. And I saw a great, big, round glow of light ahead of me. It was like a big argent disc of hammered silver. You know what hammered silver looks like. And there were two big posts on each side with a caduceus around them and some steps. If you think I was afraid before, you can imagine how afraid I was then. Because now I knew they were going to get me, you know. For all these years I've been able to stay out of those places. Now I know they're going to get me, you know. And a voice out of nowhere said, "Don't be afraid." Don't be afraid. I couldn't move. But as soon as it hit me, the impact hit me, I loosened up. And I wasn't afraid. And the voice told me what to do. And I said, "I can't do that. I can't do that." And the voice then said something to me that told me just how deep, whatever this was that was talking to me, how deeply it knew me. Because it laughed and it said, "You shyster, you." And I knew exactly what it meant. I was doing again what I'd always done. The indirect approach, the indirect answer, the indirect question. Never face anything head on. My whole life, never faced anything head on. And I had to change. And I said, what can I do? And I was told what to do. And part of that's the reason this program, I'm not going to tell you the exact words, but part of that's the reason this program has come into existence. Because I was told what to do. And that was a profound experience to me, because for 24 hours I knew complete and absolute serenity. Complete serenity. I knew that everything is all right with the world. That half the time I only get in my own way. If I would just follow directions according to my own conscience on the inside, that things will work out. I still forget it at times, but that's the way it's been most of the time. I've never forgotten one word of what happened. I could draw you a picture. I have drawn a picture of this. The only thing I can tell you is that that voice was the higher power. The first higher power I really ever found. Because I understood it. I understood what it was saying. I understood where it was coming from. Somewhere deep inside of me where I'm connected to this universe, something came through. Because I could never believe in the conceptual gods that most people have believed in. I saw so much difference in my family background. You know, from Catholicism to Presbyterianism and all the ways in between, it confuses a child, you know, when you have people that you know. And yet as a child, I always seemed to know there was something more for me. Now, when I was a very, very small kid, I always run around with older people. Now, I'm not talking about at 7 years old and running around with kids 9 years old. I associated with men 60 and 70 years old. They were the people I liked to be with because they had interesting things to tell me and interesting things to show me. The one man I made great friends with was over 70. He was an explorer, an archaeologist, and an ornithologist. And I used to watch all the things that he had collected and all his travels over the years, and I was so interested in these things that I wanted to do them too. And my other very, very close friend was the town drunk. And he was a great guy, you know. He was so good to me in so many ways, and he was such a louse on another, so many others, you know. And he used to fall down the stairs and break himself open, and break his leg, break his head open, and the blood would be running down 2, 3 flights of stairs, you know. And one time when I'm about 7 and a half, he fell down the stairs, and I found him, and the blood was running down 3 flights of concrete steps. So I found him, I went running in to get my mother. We got him into a hospital, and I used to keep saying to her, when can we see Mr. Cruikshank? She said, next week, next week. This kept going on. Finally I said, I have to see him. She said, all right. So she took us up to a place called Craw Road. It's Crow Road. This was the nut house. We're up in this beautiful grounds of this nut house. And here he is sitting in a chair, a wheelchair. And he's just staring straight ahead. He can't see me, and I couldn't understand why he couldn't see me, why he couldn't talk to me. I said, what is wrong with him? She said, he's a sick man. I said, what do you mean sick? She says, he drank too much and got hurt too much over the years. I didn't say anything after that. They took him away. As we were walking down the big pathway down to get the trolley car to go home, she said, why are you so quiet? I said, well, I'll tell you. When I grow up, I'm going to help people like Mr. Cruikshank. I've never forgotten that, because I wondered at that time what I meant. So you see, the course was laid out for me. I had to become an alcoholic and an addict to fulfill my destiny. I went to school. Went to a prep school in Pennsylvania to study for the ministry, thinking that was one of the ways I had to go. Well, I lasted there about 3 years. You know. I couldn't make it. I stole all the wine I could get my hands on. We had 17 altars down one side, you know, and 3 in the front. And half the time there was just barely enough wine left for the priest to say Mass, you know. And of course, you know the job I had, you know. I worked in the sacristy, naturally. So after they found out about that, then I went down the cellar and found out how to get in the wine cellar. Snake the stuff out from underneath, you know, push the dirt back again so they couldn't see where it went. Then after that, I got a job as what we called, can't remember the name of it now, but it was taking care of the good father's rooms, cleaning up, you know, getting their books, drinking their whiskey. Is what it was, really, you know. Because I could go to 6 or 7 rooms in the morning and I'd feel pretty good by first class time, you know. Then I wouldn't have to go over the wall that night and go down to the village. And by the way, in that village, which is back in Pennsylvania, we've got 2 NA meetings going right now. Yeah. One's called the Cornwall Heights meeting, and that's where I went to school. Most of my buddies there that continued their studies all became the kind of people that I had wished years gone by that I could become. They're professors. They're past presidents of a university. All of them. You know? The ones that are not dead. And here I am. I met one of them not too long ago as a member of AA. I met him after 26 years in Africa as a missionary. I met him right here in San Fernando Valley. He's got 15 years on the program at that time, 18 years now. You know. Our paths cross, you know. So maybe I haven't said too much. I don't even know what time it is or how long this is supposed to last. Is there going to be a dance after this fracas? Okay, then. I'm going to wind this up pretty soon. And perhaps I can come back some other time. But I just would like to say a few things about H&I committees, but how difficult it was. You see, I used to say many years ago, and I know Bob and probably some of the others here, remember, I used to say, I believe that this program will work best from the inside out. I think if we can carry the message to the inside, when these people grasp it there and come out, this will really make it grow. I found out I was wrong. It didn't really grow much from the outside in either, you know, until recently. But I remember some of the first contacts we had with officials. I remember the very first time we ever tried to carry the message of NA into an institution. We tried to carry it in the Max up at Castaic, and after the first meeting, we were asked not to come back. The one guy that was leading the meeting, he took up all the time, and all he did was talk down to the people that were in there, you know. And they didn't like it, and neither did the people in the institution, so they asked us, please don't come back. Which was all right, we were learning, you know. The next time, we went down to TI with another guy, and one of the people in the back row at that time, sitting back there, and we could hear him. He was making all the usual wisecracks. And turned out about a year later, he walked into a meeting over on Moore Park at the church, and Bob remembers him. Old Hip Slick Phil, whose story is in the little white book, he walked in there, and we tricked him there too, you know. He went and told us how well he was doing in the H&I committee in AA, and that he really didn't need this Narcotics Anonymous bit, you know. And I asked him after the meeting, I said, are you going to come back to some more meetings? He said, well, I don't think so. No, I said, I'm too busy doing the things I like to do where I am, you know, going into the institutions and carrying the message. I said, well, we need the message carried too, you know. And he said, well, I don't know. Well, naturally, I had to hook him in, you know, because I'm still not as straightforward maybe as I'd like to be. See? So I said, well, that's too bad, because I was going to ask you to lead the meeting next Friday night. And of course, he took the bait, you know. And he was back the next Friday night with some of his friends, and we had a good meeting. And he continued to come back. So I don't care how we get people into the program, as long as they come and they want what we have. Hey, see, there are times when I feel that I'm not making contact with newcomers enough. And my higher power works kind of funny with me. See? Generally, when I ask for a newcomer, I ask this way for me. I say, I want somebody for a little while that wants this program. I don't care if they only want it for today, for tonight, for 2 hours. I just want them to want it for a little while, see? Because that's the desire that can be increased, that can be built on, can be drawn out. Okay? And you know, within anywhere from 24 minutes to 24 hours, I always get somebody brand new. Strange the way the higher power works. There's always somebody either calls, walk into in strange places, you know, run into them in men's rooms, walk into them in restaurants, you know, stop to get an ice cream cone someplace and walk into somebody and introduce them to the program. That's planting the seed, you know. And I think one of the things that I continue to do probably is to give myself as completely as I can to this program, because it is my whole life. It doesn't mean that I don't have many other things to do. I don't have enough time to do everything I want to do. I sometimes wonder if all of us got together and asked our higher, collective higher power to make the days 48 hours long and the weeks 23 days long, that maybe we could catch up with ourselves. You know? But I doubt if that'll ever happen. So the only other way I can do that probably is to live to be like 250. So I've said before that to people who come to this program and that I meet at meetings, I'm going to be around here for a long, long time. So you're going to have to put up with me, because I'm not going to leave. But I hope that you hang around too, because maybe, if we all stick together, we will find unity in this program. We will learn how to apply the traditions, which is the only thing that will make the fellowship grow. And we will be able to carry the message to every corner of the earth, whether it's in an institution here, or in Bangkok, or in Thailand, in Scotland, in Poland. By the way, we're behind the Iron Curtain now. We've got 2 meetings in Poland. You'd be surprised what's going on. There's a Catholic priest down in Brazil has translated a little part of the White Book, and I'm trying to get in touch with him. I've called him a number of times, but can't reach anybody down there, so I've had to write to him. There's more calls for help coming in from different parts of the world than ever has before. We need everybody. We don't need just a few people. Every member of Narcotics Anonymous is needed in some way. None of us have it made. That's the unfortunate thing that happens to us so often. We think we have it made. We can't all give all our time, but we can be the program, because you are the program. You're the only program that some people will ever see, whether in or out of an institution. And what's your image? Is it false or is it real? You know, sometimes I'm so doggone much off the wall that I couldn't get serious if I tried. Tonight I just happened to be serious, because I realize more than ever when I look around a room like this, there's so many people. And I remember the times we used to sit with 2 and 3 of us around the table at the only meeting in the entire world. I remember one time Bob said to me, he said, well, what did we have to do all that other stuff for? This was after he got out of Tehachapi last time, by the way. Okay? He still has a little resentment towards me, you know. Because I wrote to him when he was up in Tehachapi and answered his letter, and I sent him up a starter kit and says, get a meeting started, and didn't enclose any money for him. Right, Bob? He didn't need any money. What did he need money for? Get in trouble? He was in enough trouble as it was, you know. Yeah. Remember, a lot of times we had to do that. And he said, well, what do we need all this stuff for? I said, because one of these days there's going to be a lot of kids that are not born yet that are going to need what we have to offer. And thank God we have what we have to offer. Not just new people, but the kids of the members who weren't even born at that time. We've got something to offer the world. I wish I could remember the thing I wrote this afternoon on that last page that I was going to wind up this talk with. I can maybe give it to you, not in the verse that it's written in, but maybe I can give it to you in essence. And I was thinking, you know, if there was ever an epitaph that I would like to see on my headstone, if I have a headstone, I'll probably be buried at sea, though. If there's ever an epitaph written, it might go something like this. All we did was sow some seeds and worked and wrought to make this work so that we and others might live in peace, in freedom, and in love.
Thanks a lot, Jimmy. Yeah, right. I'd like to make amends to you people if you think I was a little bit too heavy-handed tonight. Maybe I was, you know, but the meeting is anyway going to end on time. It started on time and it's ending on time. That's all the purpose that I serve tonight, you know. Ladies and gentlemen, there's going to be a dance that follows this meeting. We're going to need help cleaning the room up, stacking the chairs, picking up the ashtrays and the cups and whatever. And if everybody picks up whatever they left behind, we'll get the boogie that much faster. So let's all get together and end this meeting in the usual manner, okay? Where I come from, we usually end the meeting with the Lord's Prayer. You know? And we all hold hands.
After a moment of silent meditation.
That's right.
Our Father,
Okay, here's the format, sweetie.
You were terrific.
How do you turn it off?
This is two and away you go.
Oh, okay.
And this is
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, folks. Welcome everybody to the Saturday night Hospitals and Institutions fundraiser of Narcotics Anonymous. My name is Bob. I'm an addict and an alcoholic. And I came down here from San Francisco because they said I was going to have to go to any lengths in order to maintain what I got, and this is part of my program. Let us open the meeting with a moment of silence to do with as you wish, followed by the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. June is going to read Who is an Addict?
My name is June. I'm an addict alcoholic. Okay. Who is an addict? Most of us do not have to think twice about this question. We know. Our whole life and thinking is centered in drugs in one form or another. The getting and using and finding ways and means to get more. We live to use and live, we use to live and live to use. Very simply, an addict is a man or woman whose life is controlled by drugs. We are people in the grip of a continuing and progressive illness, whose ends are always the same: jails, institutions, and death.
Thank you. Bob is going to read what is the Narcotics Anonymous program.
My name is Bob, and I'm an addict and an alcoholic. What is the Narcotics Anonymous program? NA is a non-profit fellowship or society of men and women for whom drugs had become a major problem. We are recovered addicts who meet regularly to help each other stay clean. This is a program of complete abstinence from all drugs. There's only one requirement for membership: the honest desire to stop using. There are no musts in NA, but we suggest that you keep an open mind and give yourself a break. Our program is a set of principles written so simply that we can follow them in our daily lives. The most important thing about them is that they work. There are no strings attached to NA. We are not affiliated with any other organizations. We have no leaders, no initiation fees or dues, no pledges to sign, no promises to make to anyone. We are not connected with any political, religious, or law enforcement groups and are under no surveillance at any time. Anyone may join us regardless of age, race, color, creed, religion, or lack of religion. We are not interested in what or how much you used or who your connections were, what you have done in the past, how much or how little you have, but only in what you want to do about your problem and how we can help. The newcomer is the most important person at any meeting because we can only keep what we have by giving it away. We have learned from our group experience that those who keep coming to our meetings regularly stay clean.
And Pam is going to read how it works.
My name is Pam, and I'm an addict and an alcoholic. If you want what we have to offer and are willing to make the effort to get it, then you're ready to take certain steps. These are suggested only, but they are the principles that made our recovery possible. 1, we admitted that we were powerless over our addiction and that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4, we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, we admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we were entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, we humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, we made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, we made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, we continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of those steps, we tried to carry the message to addicts and to practice these principles in all of our affairs. This sounds like a big order, and we can't do it all at once. We didn't become addicted one day, so remember, easy does it. There is one thing more than anything else that will defeat us in our recovery. This is an attitude of indifference or intolerance towards spiritual principles. Although there are no musts in NA, there are 3 things that seem indispensable. These are honesty, open-mindedness, and the willingness to try. With these, we are well on our way. We feel that our approach to the problem of addiction is completely realistic, for the therapeutic value of one addict helping another is without parallel. We feel that our way is practical, for one addict can best understand and help another addict. We believe that the sooner we face our problems within our society, in everyday living, just that much faster do we become acceptable, responsible, and productive members of that society. The only way to keep from getting or continuing a habit is not to take that first fixed pill or drink. If you are like us, you know that 1 is too many and 1,000 never enough. We put great emphasis on this, for we know that when we use drugs in any form or substitute one for another, we release our addiction all over again or create a new one. The substitution of alcohol has caused a great many addicts to form a new addiction pattern, which in its progression brings as many problems as before. We seem to forget that alcohol is one of the oldest known drugs. It would appear that we are people with addicted personalities who are strongly susceptible to alcoholic addiction.
Bill H. is going to read the 12 traditions.
Yeah. My name is Bill, and I am an addict. The 12 traditions of NA. We keep what we have only with vigilance. And just as the freedom for the individual comes from our 12 steps, so freedom for the group springs from our tradition. As long as the ties that binds us together are stronger than those that would tear us apart, all will be well. 1, our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends on NA unity. 2, for our group purpose, there is but one ultimate authority. A loving God, as He may express Himself in our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants. They do not govern. 3, the only requirement for membership is a desire to stop using. 4, Each group should be autonomous except in matters affecting other groups or NA as a whole. 5. Each group had but one primary purpose, to carry the message to the addict who still suffers. 6. An NA group ought to never endorse, finance, or lend the NA name to any related facility or outside enterprise lest problems of money, property, or prestige divert us from our primary purpose. 7. Every NA group should be fully self-supporting, declining outside contribution. 8. Narcotics Anonymous should remain forever non-professional, but our service centers may employ special workers. 9. As such, NA as such ought to never be organized, but we may create service boards or committees directly responsible for those they serve. 10. NA has no opinion on outside issues. Hence, the NA name ought to never be joined in public controversy. 11. Our public relation policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and film. Anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions, ever reminding us to place principles before personalities. Thank you.
Yeah. You know what I just asked her? I said, you want me to follow directions? There used to be a time when I couldn't do that, and she's got it all written out for me, folks. How could I go wrong? All right. My name is Bob, and I'm an addict and an alcoholic. And I'm from Sodom and Gomorrah. Some people don't know what that is. I'm from San Francisco. And I have been around this program for a while. I was a dope fiend and a drunk for 24 hours a day for 27 years. I went to any lengths to do what I had to do to get what I needed to keep from getting sick. And that took me on quite a few pretty wild journeys. At the age of 43 years old, I went into a detox at the public health hospital, and it was in this hospital that I got the message of recovery, and it came through Alcoholics Anonymous, through an H&I meeting. For those people who don't know what H&I means, it means hospitals and institutions, jails, penitentiaries, nut houses, recovery homes. You know, I understand that there's a lot of people really don't know what H&I is all about. Anyway, when I heard this man at this H&I meeting share his experience, strength, and hope, all the time that this man was talking, it was like it was clicking, because he talked like I talked. He talked like he was right off the waterfront, which he was. And I was right off the waterfront myself, being a merchant seaman for 23 years. Guy talked about hurting people. He talked about going to jail. He talked about a lot of things that I really hooked into. And at the end of that meeting, I went over and I spoke to this guy. And he took me off the hook as far as a few things were concerned. He told me about anonymity. He told me about the Privacy Act, that there is nobody in that institution was allowed to divulge any of my medical information as far as going into the hospital and kicking a habit was concerned. And one of the most important things that this man did for me was he sent 2 dudes from Narcotics Anonymous up to see me. That came into their 12-step act. And these guys came in, and they gave me a lot of valuable information. They gave me information like I never have to use again. I never have to be afraid again. I never have to climb in anybody's window anymore. And I could be my own best friend if I chose to have that happen. They told me, you know what, Bob, if you come to these meetings, something will happen to you. A few 24 hours down the line, something happened to me. I'm not the same person that I was when I came into this program a little over 6.5 years ago. While I was still in a detox, a lady drove up and took me to a meeting. It wasn't a meeting like this here. It was a meeting that I really didn't know what the hell was going on because these people were talking over my head. They were talking about the other aspect of Narcotics Anonymous. They were talking about keeping the meetings together. The various people from different meetings throughout Northern California were discussing their particular meetings. It was an area service meeting. And I said, God damn, man, this is pretty neat, you know? Here these suckers are talking all this good stuff, and now they're starting to argue, and the argument they were getting down. And nobody got punched. I thought that was fantastic. One of the guys that came into that hospital was a guy named Dennis. And he was one of the trustees for Narcotics Anonymous. And being brand new, Dennis used to take me to all kind of meetings. He took me to area service meetings. We got in his car and we drove 50 or 60 miles to a regional service meeting. We had a little tiny, that big H&I committee meeting that we drive 50 or 60 or 70 miles to. And it was as usual. As usual, I mean, there was only 3 or 4 of us in the room at that particular time. And there was a lot of hard feelings, you know, about just so many people trying to carry the message of Narcotics Anonymous into a jail or into a hospital or wherever, you know. And at this particular time, being a 24-hour person, whatever I did head first, like when I was drinking and shooting dope. I became a 24-hour person as far as this program was concerned. I started going into the hospitals. At first, at the beginning, I never really had nothing to offer as far as recovery was concerned, except saying that my name is Bob, I'm an addict and an alcoholic, and I haven't taken anything for 30 days, or 35 days, or 2 months. And these guys used to look at me and they say, God damn, man, you ain't took nothing in 2 months? If I'm lying, I'm dying, man. I ain't took shit in 2 months, man. Huh? And I could see where that would impress somebody, because you know what? When somebody came in and did that to me, but this guy really impressed the hell out of me because he had better than 25 years. You know? I said, no shit, man. You've been sober and clean for 25 years? He said, yeah, man. It's one day at a time. You just don't take nothing, Bob. One day at a time. And before you know it, you got a week. You got 2 weeks. You got a month. You know? And being the type of person that I was, you know what? I went through the trials and tribulations of a recovering dope fiend. I fought all the way, but all the time I was fighting this program, I kept doing what I was supposed to be doing for Bob. I kept going into those institutions. I kept going into those hospitals. I started a meeting at the Oakland Alameda work furlough program, and it was at Monday night at 8 o'clock. And got a lot of people pissed off at me. You know what I'm talking about? Monday night football. You come in at 8 o'clock, you coming in going into the third quarter. Or partway through the third quarter, and you got some turnkey saying, they got a Narcotics Anonymous meeting over in room 105, and these guys had come in, and they were hot, man. At first, I used to tell them, hey, look at here, sucker. If you don't like being here, man, don't let that door hit you in the ass as you're hitting it. You know? And then I found out something, that, you know what? I cannot go into any institution, and this was given to me as a threat. And then I turned around and I asked somebody about the traditions and so forth and so on. By me telling these dudes that, you know what, don't let that door hit you in the ass. I didn't fully understand that these people were supposed to be there because of their probation officer or their parole officer or something like that there. And they made it mandatory that they be there. And I discovered that as far as any particular institution is concerned, I'm allowed to go in there and I can give the message of Narcotics Anonymous, but I can't change anybody's rules or regulations. I've got to do exactly what anybody else does. I've got to follow them. And I've been doing that. That's just like when I asked Pam if she wanted me to follow this format that she wrote up for me. You know, a few years ago, you know, I used to follow Dennis all around, man. And one time Dennis told me, he says, you know what, Bob? He says, I'm going to Southern California. They're going to have a World Service Conference down there. You want to come? I told him, oh, yeah, I want to go. I came down here and I proceeded to get involved. You know, I stood up and I raised my hand and I said, you know what? I'd like to be a counter. I'd like to count the votes. You know? I wasn't into no ego trip or nothing like that there. I was into doing for me what I had to do, and that was helping somebody else. I found out about H&I on a worldwide level, what it meant. You know what? I found out that there wasn't a hell of a lot of people had a hell of a lot of information about a whole lot of things, especially hospitals and institutions. The World Service Conference was just getting underway, and I told this friend of mine, you know what, partner? I'd like to become involved in that. And when they had nominations, this guy jumped up and he said, I'd like to nominate Bob for chairman of the H&I committee. And then I had to get up and tell the conference why I wanted to be involved with the World Service H&I committee. And when they took a raise of hands, a show of hands, I was elected chairman of the World Service H&I committee. And then the next year, Henry was chairman of the World Service H&I committee. And then the year after that, I was elected chairman of the H&I committee again. And then last year, or this year here, I was reaffirmed. I was made chairman again, 2 years in a row. You know what? I must have something. I must know something. In the last 3 years, in the last 4 years that I've been associated with World Service H&I, there's some of the things that we've been trying to do, which is to broaden the scope of Narcotics Anonymous in the institutions. And there's a lot of people don't know what H&I is all about. For the last 3.5 years, we've been working on an H&I handbook that this cat right here could pick it up and open it up, and he can find out what it's all about. Oh, is this what H&I is all about? Huh? How do you start an H&I committee? Huh? How do you start an H&I meeting? This is what it's all about, huh? That's nice. Maybe I'd like to become involved. You know something, folks? I got good news for you tonight. This weekend, at this very moment, back in Latonia, Ohio, there's a mini literature committee that is fine-tuning this H&I handbook. That's right. Tonight, this weekend, is the week that it's all the fruits, and I'm not talking about San Francisco either. I'm talking about the fruits of all this labor has finally come together, and it's going to turn into a reality, just like that big book of Narcotics Anonymous. You know what, folks? I'm so grateful to be a part of it. And I'm going to say one thing that is, as far as my message is concerned, you know what? I'm a human being, folks. In the last 6.5 years, I've had my ups and I've had my downs. I've had those times when I sat in my apartment and I thought about blowing my fucking brains out, you know? I don't think about getting loaded anymore, you know? But I was thinking of killing myself. And let me tell you what stopped me from doing that. The main part of it was God. The second part of it was my commitment to hospitals and institutions. The third part of it was I told one of my babies how I felt. And this turkey told me, he says, God damn, you mean if you was to do that there, I could do it too? And I made a commitment on the spot. I said, you know what, I ain't letting this motherfucker off that easy. He ain't getting off this easy, man. You know? You gotta go through what you gotta go through, folks, you know? My commitment to hospitals and institutions has saved my life, you know? And what we're here tonight to do is to raise money, you know? We're here tonight to raise money for H&I. And you know what? I used to get off a ship and I'd go down on the corner and I'd have a big pocket full of $100 bills. And as far as the dope man was concerned, you know, he could have any part of it, man, as long as he was righteous about what he gave me, you know? Today, you know, I ain't into buying people, places, or things. But today, when the basket goes around, I put something in it, you know? I'm not saying I'm the big spender from the West or anything like that, but for a commitment like this here, you know, I put something in the basket. Like, when the time comes, I'm going to ask you to put something in the basket. Yeah, somebody gave me a nickname around here in Southern California. It was Shake the Cans Bob. That's right. Arriva de lata, shake the can, turkey. Anyway, you know what? If you don't know anything about hospitals and institutions, they've got a H&I committee down here that's growing. They've got a H&I committee down here that's functioning. There's a lot of people down here that are going into institutions, and if you want to get out of your own poor, sick, suffering, miserable self, you know what? Walk into a goddamn institution. Walk into a penitentiary. Huh? Where that guy walks up and he goes, salam, man, and he turns a thing with a great big key. And I said, oh my God. Huh? Ain't one of those doors ever hit me in the ass when I was walking out. Take my word for it. And it's a good feeling. The feeling that you get when you're going to an institution and you're sharing with another person, you know, when you start those little journeys, all the bullshit goes out the window. And you can start getting honest, you know? It's fantastic. It's fantastic. Plus the fact you're helping somebody and you're getting out of yourself. And that's where I'm at. And I'm just glad to come down here, you know, because I see a lot of people that I know. I see a lot of people that I love. You know why? I see a lot of people down here that I don't know and I want to know, you know? Thank you very much. Okay, folks, you're going to have to bear with me here. We got some birthdays that are being celebrated right now. Who's got the cake? You got one cake or you got a bunch of cakes? Up in Northern California, we used to give a little tiny cake. You know, while they're waiting for the cake, I might just as well tell you that it's been a long time, folks, since I've seen a nice-looking group of people like you out here today. Hey, listen. Huh? Yeah. You know what this little girl just came up and told me? She said, "You people are noisy."
Hey, Bob.
Yeah, what do you say? Chucking me a hug. Good to see you, man.
Good to see you. Good hearing you.
Yeah, good to be here.
We'll have a call right after the cake.
Oh, are you?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
right after the cakes. Hey, folks. Hey, look here. Hey. Hey, what about that? You know what I forgot to do? One of the most important things in this program. And before we get into the cakes, I want to ask, is there anybody here in their first 30 days of sobriety? If so, I want you to stand up. Yeah, I want you to stand up and give us your name and be recognized. All you new people, stand up. That's right. Cecilia, all right.
Addict and alcoholic.
Yeah, good. Diane?
John, I'm an addict alcoholic.
Hey, John. How about over here?
I'm John and I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, John.
Danny, and I'm an addict alcoholic.
Hey, Danny. Anybody else? Yeah. Yeah, Ned.
Been around for 7 years.
All right. Hey, you know what? If you're new and you chose not to give it up, you know, that's okay. Because when I got here, I didn't think it was any of your goddamn business, you know what I mean? And there's also another thing that I like to say, you know, it's not, when somebody says, are there any new people in the room, it's not only for that person who just drove up, it's for that person that's been here for a while. You know what I'm talking about? Any of you turkeys want to give it up? Okay. Hey, I want to welcome all you people. I envy your journey into sobriety. How about Tony with 3 years?
Hi, my name is Tony and I'm an addict. This is so spiritual to me. This is a gift of the program, is for me to be spiritual today and to be able to cry in front of all you people. And I want to thank God and Narcotics Anonymous. Thank you.
How about my friend Alice? 6 years.
I'm Alice and I am an addict. Hi, Alice. You know, I'm scared to death. To all these people. I'm grateful today to be alive, you know, and I couldn't always say that. When I got here, I did not want to be alive. I did not want to sit in these fucked up meetings and listen to you crazy fucking people. I mean, you gotta be hitting the bottom when you end up in Narcotics Anonymous and in a recovery house. But I can tell you it's been a real interesting adventure. I am really grateful today. My life is unbelievable. I used to hear him say, when you start out, make a list of all the things that you want in your sobriety. And if I had made a list out then, I would have shortchanged myself. Because I have everything today. I've always had what I needed. Always, you know, whether it was a ride to a meeting or, you know, a phone number that I needed to cry on somebody's shoulder in the middle of the night. And today I have everything that I need and most of everything that I want. And the best thing about it is I know I'm cared about today. When I got here, I didn't care about myself at all. And today I do. But not only that, but I know there's other people that love me too, besides God, you know. God expresses it through other people. And I'm a real grateful addict. I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
And we got a guy right now that is a very good friend of mine. We got the same initials.
Hey, Bob.
What?
Gary for 7 years, a lot of directions.
She said he ain't here, man. He's right here. Oh, Frank ain't here. Okay.
Happy birthday to Gary. Come on.
Gary, all right. Sorry about that.
No problem.
My name's Gary. I'm an alcoholic. Asshole, too. I am, but you know what the difference is? I know what kind of asshole I am today. When I came around, I didn't know what kind of asshole I was. And I don't know. I don't have a whole hell of a lot to say, except for one thing that over the years I've tried to keep into my pitch, and that is something that happened to me when I first came around. And what happened was I went over to my sponsor's house because I was hurting. I mean, I had pain inside of me, and I wanted some relief. And my only concept of a sponsor was that, I mean, I figured that a sponsor was supposed to fix shit, you know what I mean? You go over there and tell you he's supposed to fix this shit. So I went over to my sponsor's house and I told him, hey man, I'm in pain, and I ran down the symptoms to him and everything, and then he says, well look, you know, he says, if you leave right now, you could probably make the new meeting at Radford, you know? And I'm telling him, well, wait a minute, you don't understand. See, I'm looking for an answer here, and you're telling me to go. I mean, I could have went to a meeting myself, you know. And he says, and yeah, and on the way over there, I want you to look up in some trees and look at some birds, you know. And I want you to sniff some flowers. Now, I just got out of the goddamn penitentiary, and I ain't sniffing no fucking flowers, you know what I mean? And so I left. I went walking. He wouldn't give me a fucking ride. And I went walking to the meeting, and I was hurting so bad that I found myself looking at a tree for a bird. Huh? And I sniffed a fucking flower, too. And I sat down on a curb, and I cried, man. I mean, it all just came out, man. For the first time in years and years, I cried. And I went to that meeting. When I got out of that meeting, I was on such a high that you won't believe it, man. And if you're new, or if you're old, and somebody tells you something to do that you can't understand how it's going to benefit you, just do it anyway. Because nobody knows what's going to work in this program. Nobody knows what's going to work for the individual in this program. And quiet as it's kept, the guy that's telling you what to do probably don't know what the fuck he's doing either. Just do what he tells you and keep going to meetings. Thank you.
Okay, folks, now we got Bob B. He's got 21 years, 11 years.
My name is Bob, and I am an addict. I just have to think, you know, like this is like a convention. Our first convention didn't have this many people in it. So you can imagine if a meeting having this many people in it, how much we've grown in the years that I've been around. And I did not stay when I first came around either. I popped my head in the door and talked to Jimmy for a few times. We used to ride around the block, and he used to tell me things to do that I did not understand. And most of it at that time, I didn't do them anyhow. He would tell me about it. Because I was hard-headed that way. I wouldn't do nothing nobody told me. Until I get into a bind, and then I remember what somebody had told me. And it was usually when I was locked up somewhere in one of those funny institutions that it comes to me quite clear as to what someone told me. Oh, that's why they told me that. Eh? And then I'll get very, you know, seemingly spiritual and say, that's what I'll do, you know. I'll walk hand in hand and all this other good stuff. Until I got out. But I think it's one of the things that happened around here. We learn how to take directions over a period of time, and we find out what the results of those directions are for our own betterment, for our own self of feeling good and feeling good about what's happening with us. And I think this is very important because I think we all have to experience that thing that happens here. Not because someone told me. It's because I was willing to do some of the things that were suggested. And it's very funny where we might find God, where we might find the program. And very often it is an institution, somebody bringing you the message. You practicing the program under those conditions that you find out that it worked anywhere. See, the steps work anywhere. It doesn't care where you do the steps, they still work. And they'll continue to work as long as I work them. And it's still a case of me still having to work them. I can't get complacent and say that I got it all together. I don't know what I would do if I had it all together. I'd be in trouble. But I'm still working on it, trying to learn how to live a day at a time. And I hope that all of you will stay around and experience some of the things that I have experienced since being here, because it's a hell of a trip. And I think you have to experience it happening to you in order for it to be valid. Just sitting around watching what's happening to someone else doesn't make it so. You have to experience it. And the way you experience it is by doing those things that you do not believe that was going to work, and find out that it does. Precisely how it works is how it works. And I'm glad you were here, and I'm glad I'm here too. Thank you.
Okay, folks, we got a late arrival, but he showed up. Did you say 8 years, Frank? Yeah. 8 years, Frank.
My name is Frank, and I'm an addict and an alcoholic. Here I am, you know. Here I am today, but believe me, that's not. I like to believe that what I am today is a little bit more into life and talking more funnier, but feeling a lot happier inside. But it's like what it was, how I felt in 1974 when I first got to this camp. It's not, it's like good things have happened to me. And it's only because of the direct result, God and Narcotics Anonymous, that those